A royal cargo ship sailing along the Spanish coast of America is boarded by a pirate ship, and they manage to haul a treasure chest on board. However, the pirates are disappointed to find a solitary glass pearl instead of the expected gold and jewels. Unexpectedly, the pearl starts glowing, revealing the face of a fairy, which astonishes everyone. In a state of fear, the pirate leader shoots at the pearl, causing the ship to vanish, leaving the enchanted orb hovering in the air. 2 centuries later in London, a group of young homeless thieves, headed by musician Peter, performs an elaborate act to pilfer from a group of gentlemen. Upon a successful haul, they return to their hideout, where their senior member Jimmy proposes a job to steal antiques from Harberley. The younger boys refuse the proposal outright, but Peter eagerly devises a plan for the heist. Peter reminds his friends that Jimmy had previously saved all of them, and now it was their turn to help him steal the antiques from Harberley. As the boys debated about the proposal, Jimmy realized that he had given them an overly challenging task. Therefore, he took Peter aside and informed him that the heist was cancelled, and he could manage everything alone. Later that evening, Jimmy spoke with a client for whom he had to steal the antiques. The thief had a crucial requirement for the job to regain his position in London society. After midnight, the tutor went down to the boys' room to switch off the lights. While doing so, he noticed Peter's bed and, upon pulling down the blanket, he discovered that the boys had escaped. The young thieves eventually ended up near Harberley. As the friends created a diversion to distract the night watchman, Peter launches a rat into the museum, knowing that it will force the watchman to open the door. The plan succeeds, and the gang manages to get inside. The boys start collecting the museum's valuables when Jimmy arrives. Although the mentor is furious with Peter, he allows the boys to finish the job and fill the bags. In the meantime, he opens the vault that contains the most valuable artifacts. However, Jimmy shows no interest in the jewels and heads straight for the chest that houses the glass orb. The tutor knocks on the pearl as if it were a door, and the orb immediately starts glowing, which amazes everyone except for Peter, who is engrossed in playing with a saber he found in the main hall. Suddenly, something startles the mentor, causing him to fall and drop the pearl on the ground. In that instant, a bright light flashes through the museum, and everyone, except for Peter, disappears. Upon returning to their hideout, Peter takes the mysterious orb with him, pondering how to remedy the situation. Suddenly, there is a knock at the door, and upon opening it, Peter finds a gentleman who recently came to visit Jimmy. However, upon learning that Jimmy is not at home, the gentleman leaves without answering any of Peter's questions. Suspecting that the man is somehow connected to the mysterious pearl, Peter decides to follow him. Upon reaching the gentleman's house, Peter sneaks inside and discovers a group of people performing a strange ritual. As Peter tries to get a closer look at the strange ritual, he is caught by Dr. Richard Flood, who spotted the boy approaching. Peter is forced to tell the doctor about what happened at Harberley. Upon hearing about the orb, Richard becomes very excited and asks to be given the artifact, promising to use it to bring back the boy's friends and mentor. However, not believing the old man, Peter runs away as soon as he learns that the orb can be activated by knocking. Peter quickly returns home, but just as Dr. Flood and his assistant are about to break in, the boy suddenly disappears. He finds himself in a strange forest surrounded by twisted and unusual trees. As he climbs one of the trees, he notices multi-legged crocodiles and smoke rising from a nearby campfire that could lead him to his friends. Desperate to find them, Peter rushes towards the smoke, jumping over chipped ice floes along the way. Meanwhile, the crew hears the noise and prepares to welcome the uninvited guests. However, sensing that something is amiss, the mentor orders everyone to hide. Jimmy was correct, it wasn't Peter who approached him, but rather the pirates who vanished in a balloon 2 centuries ago. While observing his friends being transported to the pirate vessel, Peter locates Lisa, who has cleverly concealed herself, and decides on their next course of action. However, the boys must delay their reunion as they encounter a swarm of unusual creatures flying towards them. Although they evade the small ferries, they soon discover themselves surrounded by a group of Native Americans. The leader of the pirates questions Jimmy to determine the year he originates from. Once she has extracted all the information she desires, the cruel captain orders Jimmy's teacher to be fed to the crocodiles, while assigning his students to the cook for soup ingredients. To safeguard the boys, Jimmy confronts the pirate crew and triumphs over their toughest members. The captain is impressed with his bravery and dubs him Hook, leaving him be. Peter and Lisa are taken to an Indian village, where the chief greets them cordially and invites them to join him for dinner. He even proposes that they remain in the tribe for a while. However, When the chief becomes aware that the guests intend to depart to locate their missing friends, he shares the story of Neverland with them. Neverland is a mystical realm where individuals remain forever young, and it is inhabited by a diverse range of creatures, some good and others quite malevolent. Jimmy also converses with the pirate leader regarding Neverland. He discovers that there is no apparent means of returning to the real world, but the captain views this as insignificant. She has obtained a valuable substance from the forest spirits, enabling one to fly. Admittedly, the flight typically ends tragically, but the leader believes she can find a way to avoid such an outcome. Her current strategy is to locate the forest spirits and acquire a substantial amount of the flying pollen. However, the journey to reach them is perilous, and she wants Hook to accompany them. Jimmy is enticed by the beauty of the female villain and agrees to join her quest. Meanwhile, Peter awakens from a dream where he is soaring above a magical forest while fiery projectiles bombard the forest spirits. The chief's daughter urges Peter to remain with the tribe, informing him that there is no means of escaping the realm. Nevertheless, Peter is determined to rescue his friends and find a way out of this world. The boys board a boat and traverse the water to reach another section of the forest. They then proceed to pilfer one of the boats, using it to approach the pirate ship. Peter manages to liberate his friends and transports them to the dinghy. However, he refuses to depart without Jimmy and ventures back onto the pirate ship. Upon discovering that his mentor is being held captive in the captain's quarters, Peter rushes to his aid, but he discovers that Jimmy doesn't require any assistance. Believing in his teacher's abilities, Peter hands him the firearm but is promptly captured by the pirates. Although Jimmy comes to his aid, Peter has no intention of remaining with the pirates. Breaking free from his mentor's grip, Peter leaps into the water. The friends haul their comrade into the boat and await Lisa's arrival. However, at that moment, a pirate fatally strikes the boy with his saber. The boy sets sail, leaving Jimmy on the ship. Peter guides his friends to the Indian village, aware that they will face punishment from the chief. Hook requests the captain to direct him to the Indians, hoping to locate the boys. Nevertheless, the villainess is displeased that Hook intends to save the pupils instead of supporting her. Peter narrates his dream to the chief, who reveals that he also experiences a similar dream. A man in a robe appears in both their dreams, prompting Peter to request information about a place from his vision, confident that a way out can be discovered there. The chieftain's daughter accompanies Peter to the island from his dream, which does not go unnoticed by the pirates. Hook proposes that his companion takes her time to follow the duo and discover how to locate the village. The pair spends the night on the island, and Peter plays a familiar tune on his flute, prompting a tiny ferry to fly to their camp. Following the ferry, Peter and his girlfriend run after her until they lose track of her at sunrise. But then they come across a wall made of woven tree trunks, with no visible passage. Climbing up the wall, they discover an incredible sight, an entire city made of branches. Although the streets are deserted, Peter believes that the inhabitants will reveal themselves when the time is right. Out of nowhere, a man dressed in a robe emerges from behind the travelers. As soon as he uncovers his head, Peter realizes that the man is Dr. Richard Flood. While accompanying them to his residence, the elderly man discloses that he is the alchemist of the Queen who produced the orb 3 centuries ago. During his endeavor to develop a philosopher's stone, the scientist discovered a planet at the junction of time and formed a gateway. A forest fairy named Tinkerbell, who guided the friends to the old man, also joins the group. After giving his guests a tour of his laboratory, Flood is ready to send Peter back home when he receives a call notifying him that someone else has arrived in town. Richard encounters the pirates, but upon spotting Jimmy among them, he discreetly invites his friends inside. He proposes taking everyone back to their homes, but the captain declines and even plans to eliminate the scientist to prevent him from interfering with her schemes. The pirates unleash an attack on Flood's ghosts, inadvertently setting ablaze the city that the scientist had built. Despite his efforts to shield Peter and capture the wrongdoers, the captain fires a bullet at him. Jimmy catches up with Peter at the sphere and requests him not to rush. He assures the boy that they, along with the pirates, can accomplish a great deal. A dialogue between the ex-friends turns into a duel with swords, in which the teacher confesses to Peter that he was acquainted with his mother. Despite the girl's intervention, the pirates apprehend the boy. The chief's daughter intends to divulge what the captain desires to hear from her, but at that instant, the captain thrusts a blade into Peter's heart to prevent him from causing any harm. After the pirates come back to their ship, they order the chief's daughter to be tortured in order to reveal the location of the forest spirits. However, because of what happened to Peter, Hook realizes that the girl will not divulge the information, As a result, he devises a plan to locate the pollen himself and return to London. Hook informs the captain that the girl is powerless to stop him. Meanwhile, the forest spirits take Peter's body to their hideout and immerse it in a spring of magical pollen. Deep within the spring, Peter awakens from his unconscious state. Upon resurfacing, Tinker Bell informs him that he is now one of them. The forest fairies' elders request the boy's assistance in stealing the orb from the pirates, which is necessary for them to return home. The boy has been granted magical abilities, including the ability to fly. The pirates are getting ready to cross the ravine, and Hook tries to establish his dominance by engaging in a fight and becoming the second in command after the captain. In a dream, Peter sees his friends who are missing, as well as the chief's daughter, who has been captured. Realizing that he cannot delay any longer, the boy takes flight towards the pirate ship in hopes of locating the orb. The old cook is convinced that he is confronted by a ghost when Peter approaches him. He reveals that the glass orb was hidden on the shore by the captain, and only she and Hook know its precise location. While the pirates are transporting a prisoner across a bridge made of giant spider webs, Peter intervenes and saves his friend. After leaving the girl behind, Peter flies back up to find out the whereabouts of the orb. But he is captured first by a giant spider and then by the captain. Meanwhile, the chief's daughter returns to the village and informs Peter's friends about the events that have unfolded. The group splits into two factions, with some believing that they should rescue their friend, while others blaming Peter for the predicament. Hook abducts Peter from the ship and brings him back to the forest where their journey began, assuring him that he comprehends everything. The mentor guarantees the boy that they will return home as soon as Peter takes him to the Indians to retrieve the remaining boys. Peter guides Hook to a concealed passage and enters first to inform the guards that he is arriving with the pirate. Shortly after, it became clear that it was a trap when Hook and his pirate army arrived and set fire to the forest, causing harm to the forest spirits. Fearing for their lives, Peter agreed to lead the pirates to a spring of magical pollen in exchange for them leaving the forest and its inhabitants alone. Hook went to the spring, absorbed the pollen, and attempted to fly but turned into ash shortly after. Hook then attempted to harm Peter, but the Indians arrived to assist him. Peter is found in the forest by the forest spirits, who decide to punish him for his betrayal. They decree that he will forget his entire life, including his friends and happiness, and the only thing he will retain is his ability to fly. Tinker Bell intervenes on Peter's behalf and pleads with the elders to spare him, but it is too late, and Peter's memory is wiped clean. Tinker Bell is banished from the tribe as a result. Left with no other options, Tinker Bell seeks help from the chief's daughter and guides her to Peter. Upon seeing Peter's strange behavior, the girl realizes that something is amiss, but the chief is suspicious of her and orders Peter to be thrown into the pit. The remaining pirates attempt to overthrow Hook, but he swiftly quells the rebellion and leads the gang, promising to take them to London. Peter's friends rescue him, but he fails to recognize anyone. They are compelled to restrain him, but Curly devises a way to help him remember. He plays a tune on his flute, and the melody brings Peter's memories flooding back. Peter heads to Hook's ship to retrieve the orb, but Tinker Bell intercepts him and persuades him to wait. She believes it is necessary to allow the pirates to proceed to London, and then they will recover the orb and return it to the elders. Guy overhears the pirates plotting to destroy an Indian village and rushes back to the tribe to warn the chief. He leaves the orb with the pirates and returns to the island, but the chief's daughter doubts his credibility and sends him away. Meanwhile, Peter's friends encounter the Indians and persuade the chief that Peter was telling the truth. The tribe mobilizes and journeys to the island just as Hook is preparing to depart for London to amass an army and conquer the magical world. Hook activates the orb and prepares to transport, but Peter intervenes and pushes the men away. Simultaneously, a battle ensues on the ship between the remaining pirates and the Indians. Upon learning that Hook has absconded, the chief instructs his daughter and her warriors to locate the captain on the island. In the cave, the pirates take aim at Peter, unaware of the glowing orb. Tinker Bell intervenes to save her friend, but she sustains injuries in the process. Finally, the Indians and Peter's friends arrive in the cave, and victory appears imminent. However, chaos erupts with battles, gunfire, and shouting, causing the cave to collapse, and everyone scurries to escape. Peter places the injured Tinker Bell in his pocket, seizes the orb, and takes flight. As they approach the exit, it collapses, and Peter's companions realize he is still inside. Hook is also trapped in the cave, having lost an arm in the fray. A few days later, Peter reappears before his friends, dressed in a new costume. With the aid of the orb, he had journeyed to London and acquired presents, But now he has come back to remain with his friends eternally in a magical realm where they will never age.